Hi guys. So Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, was interviewed by Sky News on Sunday morning, a few hours before we heard the news that Boris Johnson and Ursula von der Leyen had extended the negotiations to find a deal. Now, Dominic Raab is a Brexiteer, and of course he engaged in petty politics. So let's hear what he had to say.
Well, let's just start with a very straightforward question. Where are we as of 8:30 this morning in terms of those negotiations?
Well, look, I called in to check in with our team out in Brussels. They worked incredibly hard. You remember the PM has made clear we want to leave no stone unturned. So we've been at it very hard at the working technical level, if you like, with all the usual jousting of positions. But what really matters is what the EU is willing at a political level to commit to. There's a conversation that Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the Commission, will have with the Prime Minister later today. That's when we'll know. But I think we need to be really clear. There's two fundamental issues at stake: the issue of fisheries, the issue of the so-called level playing field. We want to be treated like any other independent, self-respecting democracy. If the EU can accept that at a
If the EU can accept that, the EU have said on numerous occasions how the UK is an independent coastal state. They have also said that Parliament is sovereign, and Parliament itself has said Parliament is sovereign. What more do you want the EU to do?
Political level, then there's every reason to be confident. But there is still, I think, a long way to go.
Why are they finding it so difficult to deal with that?
Well, I think it's been difficult. Look, there's all sorts of questions around the integrity of the single market that they talk to. But bottom line is, if you ask me, and I've been at this a while now.
Yes, you have indeed.
I think the EU is concerned that actually Britain might do rather well once we leave the EU, and is.
Okay, so this is once again a typical response from Brexiteers when you're asked, why do you think the EU is concerned about the UK leaving, and why would they be concerned that the UK is leaving and has left? The idea that you know they'd be jealous of our success. No, they're concerned of having basically a tax haven on their doorstep. You know, the European Union are not huge fans of tax havens. That's why they're clamping down on tax haven, on dealing with allowing citizens and companies to deal with tax havens. They blacklisted a number of them, and they don't want another one on their doorstep. Now, what I mean by tax haven is the UK, of course, will not become like the Cayman Islands or Barbados, although some Brexiteers would definitely like that. Not ordinary Brexiteers, I'm talking about the Jacob Rees-Moggs or the Nigel Farages of this world. They would definitely like to turn the UK into a version of the Cayman Islands. But what Brexiteers are talking about is eliminating standards, reducing workers' rights, fiddling around with taxes in order to facilitate, to help a certain class of people in the UK, principally billionaires, multimillionaires, and business owners. That's what Brexit, those are the people who will benefit from Brexit, not the average person on the street, not the person who comments on my channel. These people will not really benefit from Brexit. The people who will benefit are the rich business owners, multimillionaires, people with large tracts of land and multiple mansions.
Worried about the competitive advantage, even on the normal global rules that apply.
We'll talk in a second about those sticking points, but just in terms of the chronology of the day, what exactly is going to take place and when? When will that kind of final conversation take place between the two leaders?
Well, the exact timing is not quite clear yet, but it'll happen later on today. I think it's important. It doesn't, you know, the technical talks matter. Getting creative solutions, understanding each other's positions really matters. But what ultimately is required at this 11th hour of the negotiation is moving the political logjam. That can only happen at the level of the Prime Minister and Commissioner von der Leyen.
So it is all about the leaders today. It is all about some injection of political will from both of them, you see it?
Well, look, we've been stuck on those two particular points. If the EU moves substantially and can alleviate the concerns that we've got about the way we're being treated, not like any other country in the world.
Okay, Because you're not like any other country in the world. You're not like Canada. You're not like Japan. In the same way that Japan is not like Canada. In the same way Canada is not like Japan. You can't be treated... This is something that Boris Johnson and other senior Brexiteers have been talking about. We want to be treated like Canada. And the European Union has said since the very beginning, no, we're not going to treat you like Canada because you're not like Canada. Canada is not on our doorstep. We can't drive to Canada. Also, the economy of Canada is completely different to the economy of the UK. What we trade in is completely different. So you can't have a Canada-style deal because Canada is different.
On the EU's own terms, that can't be right. We can't accept that. But if the EU can find its way to treat us like a normal, independent third country, I think there's every reason to feel confident.
But they have been treating you like an independent third country. Once again, Dominic Raab is just pushing these ideas that have been knocked down in the past. They have been debunked. But he's continually pushing them.
But we are not there yet, and I think that's why that conversation is so important.
Is there the opportunity for discussions to go beyond this evening? If there is a deal to be done, we're hearing, the Prime Minister, exerting every muscle that he possesses, stretching every sinew.
Every muscle. Okay, no, just the mental image of Boris Johnson working every muscle.
It does rather strike me that if that is the case, then you would be open to continuing talks beyond this evening.
Well, I can't close the door on it, but I think there is a way that the EU's got to go to give us the reassurance on those 2 points. Of course, if we're 99% there on the outstanding issues, you wouldn't want to leave, as I say, any stone unturned. But I think it's quite a high bar.
Let's talk then about the level playing field. Just explain, do you have an objection to, in circumstances in which the European Union and the United Kingdom, that there was divergence, in terms of standards? Do you have an objection to, an increase in tariffs in those circumstances, just a blanket objection? Or is it the unilateral means by which the European Union would be able to apply those tariffs as things stand?
2 issues. First of all, are we bound to follow not just EU rules now, which is difficult to accept, but also in the future, when we don't know what they were, when we wouldn't have any say in them, when we wouldn't have any democratic accountability? We can't accept that. Of course, most free trade deals have global star level playing field commitments, basically political level, high level commitments. That's fine. We'd accept the ones that are there for Canada. We understand.
We would accept the ones that are there for Canada. Once again, we want a Canada-style deal. Now, why is Boris Johnson pushing this idea of having a Canada-style deal? Because they want to copy and paste. They don't want to do the hard work of actually sitting down and negotiating a trade deal. They're lazy. They just want to have something quick and dirty. Look, Canada have a deal. We want to copy their deal. And the European Union said, no, you can't do that. Canada wouldn't be too happy with the UK copying and pasting their trade deal because they have put time and effort into creating that deal. They wouldn't be happy with somebody else just copying and pasting it and taking the benefits of having such a deal. I'm really concerned with Boris Johnson's government. Any of the trade deals that have actually been signed so far are not actually trade deals, they're rollover deals. They've copied and pasted the agreements that the EU had with member states, with other countries. And the UK government are presenting these as new trade deals. Well, they're not. They're basically copied and pasted versions of the European trade deals that existed when the UK was a member. And they're selling them to the public as a new trade deal. But once again, this idea that, we just want something like Canada, the EU have said since the beginning, you're not getting that.
And the concerns around that. Secondly is the way they're enforced. We presumably, I would have thought on all sides, want to narrow the issues if any disputes arise in the future to preserve the relationship. I don't think you want a nuclear sort of style reaction where tariffs go up, where we're back in the same old drama and soap opera every couple of years or even sooner than that, just because there's a particular issue around a particular sector. So I think it's about making sure we've got a relationship that we can preserve and nurture that isn't actually going to continue to be a thorn in both our sides.
So it does seem then, at least in terms of level playing field, that there is a way out of this for both sides. Now, whether that is some joint UK-EU body or some independent arbitrator, why have the EU proved so resistant to that?
Well, look, there's definitely a way out. It's whether there's the political will on the EU side to accept that we will not be treated differently from any other self-respecting, independent economy in the world, nor indeed different from the way that they would expect to be treated. And
this is a pile of crap. Dominic Raab is lying, and I'm actually disappointed that the journalist is not calling him out on this. And why is he lying? Let me explain. So this is from the Financial Times. I want to read this article from a few days ago, from the 10th of December. It says here, just before I read this more important section, it says here, the latest disagreements revolve around the EU's attempt to find a solution called the evolution mechanism to ensure shared minimum standards in place at the end of the Brexit transition period in areas such as labour and environmental regulations do not become obsolete over time. It goes on to say, Brussels has suggested that if standards diverge, the side with the tougher rules can impose tariffs to equalize competitiveness. Let me just look at that phrase again. The side with the tougher rules can impose tariffs. Now, if the EU increase their standards and the UK do not, then the EU have the right to impose tariffs. If the UK increase their standards and the EU do not, the UK has the right to impose tariffs. Do you understand what is being presented here? The measures perhaps being decided by an independent dispute settlement panel of the type typical of many trade agreements. Now, what the Brexiteers in Boris Johnson's government are trying to push is the idea that what happens is the EU want to implement this evolution mechanism where the EU will change the rules later on and punish the UK for not following suit. No, what the EU are saying is, if you increase your standards, we get punished by tariffs. If we increase our standards and you don't, you get punished. So that's equal. And if either side has a problem with that, there will be an independent dispute panel to deal with it. Not the European Court of Justice, but an independent panel. What is the problem with that? The problem is that the UK do not want to increase their standards post-Brexit. They want to lower standards. They want to destroy UK standards. They want a type of capitalism that is deeply destructive. They don't care about workers' rights post-Brexit. They don't care about environmental standards. They don't care about product standards. They want to reduce everything. And you don't have to even believe me when I say this. Listen to the rhetoric from Jacob Rees-Mogg. Listen to the rhetoric from Nigel Farage over the last number of years, saying that there's too much red tape. We need to reduce standards. We need to reduce regulations. We need to cut taxes. We need to streamline, would be the expression he would say, which is basically become more competitive in a sense. And of course, being more competitive results in lower standards. This is what it's all about. It's not about protecting workers. It's not about protecting the environment. It's not about protecting standards of any type. It's about eliminating them. There is this libertarian view within the Brexit camp, and their end goal is to basically turn the UK into a tax haven. Low standards, low taxes, low regulation. And once again, if you don't believe me, listen to Nigel Farage. He presented it very well a few years ago. So the problem is not so much the EU. The problem here is that the UK want to reduce standards and they don't want to be punished for that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?